Alrighty, guys, I'll bring the music back up. Hey, guys, welcome everyone tuning in to the JeDaily show. Today is September 9th. What a big day. Dreamcast History Month. PlayStation, the original first one, came out on also September 9th, 1995. But today was pretty big news, man. Sony making a lot of announcements. Yeah, just too much gaming overload. I remember last year I was starting to get burnt out with gaming in general. Like, man, what can they do with next gen that changes anything? And now they're just changing it up to having all kinds of content easily accessible anywhere you go, which is, the way the future's shaping up. But today we're here to talk about promoting your event. The way I do it, I'm going to show you exactly. This is my day zero for my November event, where I start going on my Facebook pages. I start promoting and sharing it with other groups, stuff like that. So I'm going to show you exactly what I would do to promote my event. Disclaimer, this is probably like my 40th event in the last 6 years alone. So I'm pretty experienced at this, but it's pretty basic the way I do it still. It's a formula that's worked with me. I've built trust over the years with people in my events. A lot of people say, why don't you just stop throwing all the small events and do just the big CEO in June every year? As much as I would love to take a big break and enjoy a year off and then do the event, I just love bringing people together. And a lot of my local events, those never are about the money. I might make, honestly, maybe $200 for putting it all together. But it's not a goal. As long as I don't lose money, I make sure to find venues that aren't out of my expectations and stuff like that. So I'm going to show you exactly what I would do if I were to just sit down and go, okay, here's going to be my first event. Now, I did cheat, but I did just lock another date for my CEO Winterfest event in February. So I'm going to create that Facebook page for you guys. But as of now, you can see right here, I already have a CEO Never Sleeps, hosted by JeDaily. Me and Tong Lee. He's he's the other big organizer in Florida now, running a lot of Tampa events. We teamed up for the event. I found a great venue, a new one, because unfortunately I keep outgrowing them with my local events. But the one I do every year in June, if you ever come out to the major CEO, it'd be impossible to fill that ballroom up all the time, and it's really expensive. So you always got to scale back, start slow. One point I will show you guys, this is a really cool website. If you're ever serious about organizing events outside of like a gaming shop or anything, and you want to do it in a hotel ballroom, use this website I have right here. It's called Cvent, cvent.com. That's just like you see right here. You should still be able to see the mouse. Cvent.com. I use this. I found out about like 3 years ago. Originally, the Wyndham I used for the big CEO, I knew about that through another convention that was already there, so they connected me with those, with the management there to start my own event. But Cvent is really good. It helps you find any kind of venue you need. I'll show you an example. Search hotels and venues, right? So I'm going to type in a zip code up top right. And when you type in your zip code, it's going to show you, oh, nope, that's not it. Let's go back. See a demo. Okay, there we go. Ready for the next step? You can just skip all this stuff. It tells you about event registration, payment processing. That's advanced stuff. For my local events, I do just cash on site. I also do take credit cards now because CO is a legitimate business. So as a backup, most people don't always have cash and there's no ATMs handy. So I usually just do online registration as just to register their name, because I have a really great registration system I use the day of the event, which I'll also show you guys. But you can go to request a quote, and you have to enter all your information in. I'm going to do this real quick. CEO Gaming, job title, director, CEO Gaming. Now, after I did sign up for this, they did email me quite a few times to check how I did, but they did help me find the venue I'm currently using for the November and next year's CEO Winterfest. 3819 407 555 5555. Conference trade show. How many total is attendance? Let's just go 101 to 500. Yes. All right, so it's going to pretty much bring up something to look up all the different hotels. Okay, let's see. Where are you? Supplier network. Where are you? There we go. Oh my god, okay, this is already messing up. There we go. Sorry. Find venues. So this is a database of pretty much every hotel in the United States that's a part of this database, which is pretty much all of them. Literally, all you do. So, for example, my zip code's 32819, and that's it. You type it in, and then it's going to show you all the different hotels right here. You can see. Let me know in the chat if you can see my mouse as I scroll across, because I think I turned that setting off. But what you can see is you can see all the different venues. Now, let's start off, for example, let's do an event for 200 people. My suggestion would be you could scroll down on the left side, venue information, and sizes. Generally, like a 5,000 square foot room can fit about 400 people comfortably. So you want to start out that way if you want to start small, for example. But the cool thing about it is it'll show you every single hotel in this area, and it'll show you right away their largest meeting room, so that you don't have to go to each hotel's website to see what their biggest sizes are. So this website's really informative to give you all the information you need on a hotel. And what's cool about it is you don't even have to use it directly to book your to request a quote. You can actually call the hotel, getting the number from it. But these guys are very helpful if you want to do that. So this is one way I do it. Like, let's see. I did less than 10,000 square feet because that's what I wanted for my, for the CEO Never Sleeps event. So 5,000 or more, 14, and I'll show you where I had it. They might have changed the name though, because the name changed. But I'm very lucky. This is all location dependent. A lot of people are in the middle of nowhere, so it's really hard to find stuff. But for example, here's my ballroom that I use for the big CEO every year. But again, you don't need to go that big all the time. You should always start small. What people still don't realize is I've been doing at least 40 events. I did 10 before the first CEO ever existed. So it's definitely a trust issue to do. Or you got to build trust over the years. That's how I created everything. So yeah, so this is cvent.com. I would highly suggest using it. If you don't want to go into hotels, then obviously you can talk to your local gaming stores. Those are a great place to start. That's what I used to do. I used to go to bars and restaurants to start everything off. So I use cvent to find the latest hotel, which they're changing their names over, but that has no effect on the event. Now also, if you ever do have something where you sign a contract with a hotel, but they have a, for example, like a franchise name changing, you can actually, you're allowed to get out of that contract. So for some reason you don't want to do the event, which never ever cancel anything. Unless you're dead, you should never cancel an event. Once it's set, do not change your dates. Do not do any of that stuff. That's my best suggestion. But you can basically change it. Like my hotel had to change their names because they didn't want to be a part of the Radisson anymore. And they called me and said, we are unfortunately changing our name. We don't want to have to raise our rates to compete with the other hotels. But if you'd like to get out of your contract, you're more than welcome. But majority of our clients are staying, yada yada. So I decided to stay because it was a great venue for what we're doing in November. But I'll show you. So CEO Never Sleeps, right? I have a Facebook page, and I'm going to create a new page in a second. To get started, like for example, what I do, and I haven't done it yet. If you see here, I'm on my Google Docs Drive. If you don't have a Gmail account, create a Gmail account immediately if you ever want to organize stuff. I use so many things on this, and so I use it for so many reasons. Like I won't click it, but I have my master equipment CO list. All my everything I have is basically organized and written down, so I have it on here. So if I ever update in a hard drive, I go in here and I click when the last time I updated it. This is where I do the badges list and everything, and this is open to the public. You can actually see it if you still have the link, so nothing's secret here. But for example, I'm going to go to Untitled Form, which I already started here, and generally this is very bare bones copy and paste type stuff. So for example, I have CEO bar fights, and I use the exact same format every time for planning out these events. So I have all this information here. I can pretty much, once you create it once, you can copy and paste all this stuff, and bam, go to Untitled Form, form description, you're done. But obviously you have to change everything. So timeout. Anyways, so Untitled Form. So this is going to be my CEO Never Sleeps event. You should always have, and srk.com always had it best when they used to do the forum, when we would use the forums all the time. Was basically, your location, the games you're planning to do, and then basically all the information. So you can go to tournaments and events. Before there was Facebook, this was the one-stop shop for all your, your location and tournament needs. So you should still use this. It is still one of the best for people to find about tournaments. Plus, they also help promote you. But you can see all these events from all over the place, and the general format's the same. Name of your event, where it's located, the dates are always important, and then if there's anything special about it, like for example, this is a final round 17 qualifier for next year, and stuff like that. This one has a typo. Whoever you are, fix it. So that's generally what I do. Is I used to use this format first, but now I kind of go in reverse and I use my Google Doc to start off everything. So for example, CO Never Sleeps, November 16th to 17th. And it's going to save it for you, basically. It automatically saves everything for you. Let's see. All changes saved in Drive. So, how do you copy? Okay, what you got to do, guys, is you got to... Shut up. Anyways, so... For example, I'm not going to go into full detail on how I do this, but like I said, I always go with the same format. So when this is going to change, it's going to be October 16th to 17th, Orlando, Florida. This is where you would change the address up and everything. Now, somebody asked earlier, and I can start off with this, how do I decide what games I want to host? Generally, what I do is I go back at my last event, and I see how the numbers were for certain games. So, for example, last event I had, wow, don't tell me that, September 20, no, was it Winterfest after that? Shoot. Has been a while. No, I did an event in May. Anyway, so we'll go to Winterfest, which is a really long time ago. Let's see, view, go to live form. So if you go to the live form, it's already formatted from when I did it. I had 10 games at CO Winterfest, for example, right? So I look at all these games. Obviously, Capcoms are always the games you're going to go with first. That's generally what's going to bring out your biggest numbers. It's just fact and truth. But you always have room to support the smaller events, the smaller games that might not get a big turnout. For me, if I have a one-day event, if I get 16 people for a tournament, I think that's a great time because those 16 people will be teaching each other everything they're learning about the game. They'll be playing it. They'll be happy. If you ever have a tournament like less than 8 people, it starts to get a little embarrassing. Most players are like, why didn't anybody show up? Stuff, but it really is a community effort where everybody has to support each other. So it's really tough. So I basically go back and I look at all these different games. So since then, Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is still popular in Florida, and it's always what's your local community. You should never see what everyone else is doing. Or copy exactly what games other places are doing, because some areas might have bigger tournaments for the smaller games. Like the Northeast is huge for anime games. It might not be so big in Florida. Like for example, we always have one game at a time, and right now Persona is still the popular one until BlazBlue Chrono Plasm, whatever it's called, comes out, and then obviously the newest Guilty Gear. But yeah, I mean, like Mortal Kombat 9, it's really died out. And it's really tough too. The more games you Chrono Phantasma, thank you. The more games you host, the more stream time you have to try to allocate. And I'm still a mixed feeling about the stream. It's very important, especially for the main CO event, trying to pull on sponsors. But it's really hard to be fair to every single game, and you really just have to go with the biggest games, to allocate time. What I do for my smaller events is I set a rule, and as long as you always set rules or let people know in advance how you're going to run things and you don't change them on the fly, people will love you for it. So for example, I will have, let me see, I will generally tell people if there's not more than 16 people in a tournament, we will not stream the finals. So it needs to have at least 16, and then if it's between 16 and 32, we'll do final 3. I had one event this year, Winterfest actually, we did 10 games, literally back to back to back in one day to stream it. For the November event, it's a 2-day event, but I'm deciding to go with a singles-only tournament on Saturday, and then Sunday will be just team tournaments. And obviously, start small. If it's your first time wanting to really do a tournament, you can't go all out on your first try. It just doesn't work like that. First tournament I was a part of was a 14-man Street Fighter 4 tournament. After the whole, the era of like 5 years of no really big tournaments outside of EVO happening. and local ones everywhere. But in Florida, our scene was practically dead for 5 years until Street Fighter 4 came out. And I had hosted a lot of tournaments back in 2002, 2003 when I went to college at UCF and was a vice president of their video game club. But again, deciding the games, it just depends on your local community. What I like to do is you have Facebook groups are your best friends. So, for example, I have a bunch of, groups here, Dead or Alive Florida, for example. So I'll go in there. So let's pull up Dead or Alive, right? Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate at CO in November. Anybody interested? I will ask an interest feeling, see what everybody says. And that's basically how it starts. So I had a few people say yes, yes, yes. Now, when it comes to a game that is small or does not have a big turnout, look at that. So many people want to join this group. Good for you. And I'm an admin of pretty much every Florida group. You can easily host a game like, for example, Dead or Alive. If it's a smaller community, it's very easy to host it and just reach out to like one or two of the more popular names or just ask, can anybody help with setups? And never hesitate to ask for help or setups. You can easily, if you do my suggestion for a first-time event, if you can afford it or you're not being really charged a venue fee, $5 honestly is the best way to do a venue fee and get it built up and get people interested. I have never gone over $10 venue for a one-day event. Even my CO November sleeps will be $10 a day. That's it. So you always have to start small. If you try to charge more venue fee than the most popular tournament in a city you're in, maybe it's going to be really hard sell for people to come out. And somebody asked real quick, what about really small gaming communities? That's Cold X. Your green. You're super green. Whatchamacallit? 16 for us is pretty good. My minimum for players is 6. I mean, you can always do a round robin tournament. If you have the space, guys, you can easily host any amounts of games. Just let people know, this might be a small turnout, but let's see what we can do. Another good question. How do you feel about polls to gauge interest? I love polls. I will go to the Florida Air Dashers group, for example, and hopefully it's still here. Here we go. So I asked, for example, I'm very open with my community. A lot of people in Florida will tell you that. I let them know every step of the way of what I want to do, and I think that's why CO has been a success, because I've always been able to share everything because I'm in charge and because I'm passionate about the event. I really enjoy it. So, yeah. Markman SDT asks, what launch title are you going after for Xbox One and PS4? I wish Titanfall was a launch title. PS4, man, I don't know yet. I hope Dive kicks out day one. So I just hope you bring sticks to PS4, Markman. Guilty Gear's coming out, so we need something. And hopefully, guys, with Killer Instinct coming out around launch time, I don't know if it's confirmed for launch time, but the new sticks are going to be amazing for Xbox One. So anyway, so the smaller scenes, yes, you should definitely ask. Like here, for example, I ask which game, and I'll zoom this in. Which game do I host at CO Never Sleeps in November? You only want to do like one game of each. And I won't be able to stream anything other than finals depending on time. We're hosting 8 to 10 games. I meant that as if we can only choose one, but I can accept 2. So you can see my local area wants the BlazBlue import. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of hosting tournaments on import games because you're not going to get any new players interested. Nobody's going to come out of the woodwork go, oh, I don't have a Japanese PSN, or I don't have access to the game, but I'll enter that tournament. No, they'll probably check out the game and watch it, but they're not going to enter the tournament, so I think that really hurts. But so yeah, for this example, all of Florida, I've asked these guys, we'll bring the setup so you're set. So that's good. It's really tough. Like I said, start small with a few games, and just build it from there. If you have a hard time getting people out to your community, it just might not be meant to be. But if you're still having fun with a few people and that game, don't stop playing a game you enjoy. So all the games I play because obviously there is a big community that plays them, but I'll play different games. Yeah, let's see what else. I'm going to zoom back out for you. So back to the whole creating thing. And this right here, when, for example, I'll show you. Let me hide that so you don't see real names. Sorry. So example, when you create these documents, these registration documents on Google Docs, and if anybody really has questions, ask me on how to set this up. I can do a demo real quick. When they fill it out, for example, this is everything here. And actually, I think I still allow people to sign up for it. So I'm going to fill it out, for example. Alex, I've already done this before, but Alex J. This is the reason why Google Docs is really good for your local events. Let's go JeDaily, CEO. Where are you from? You always want to separate. Those are the basic three things you want. Is Alex, full name, gamer tag. This formula works for me. I always use this formula. Location. And then you explain to people how much each game is, what systems they're on, because there's still... I've always done Xbox for Capcom games because it just started out that way, and I've stuck with it. But, so you want to have it. So say I want to enter AE, Marvel, Persona, and then there's a team sign-up I had for RIP PlayStation All-Stars. We had like 10 teams. It was fun, actually. Everybody came out, played, and then the game just disappeared overnight. So I'm going to submit it. Your response has been recorded. You go over to this document, scroll all the way to the bottom, and bam. There you go. CEO Orlando's right there already. So what I do with this is I actually manually add these in. After this is automatic, I manually add these in. I use TO. TO Pro is the program to use. Now, this is totally different from what I do for the big one, for the big CEO tournament, but you can go to TO Pro, and they have actually a new one that's really good, and you can download this program. It's really easy to use. I manually will print out this list of all the names, and then I'll manually type in the names and all that. So I can definitely show you guys examples of people, because I don't think there are really tutorials on how to use these. A lot of organizers, when they pick it up, they ask their friends for help, but maybe it's time to start creating these tutorials for these such programs. But generally, I use TO Pro for my one-day events, or even my two-day event, for example. Now, the big event is really tough because you got to go through either PayPal. There's a really good program called Wufoo. I know a lot of other organizers use. And I'll show you Wufoo. It's an online form program. Save this. It's really good. You have to pay monthly, but it's really good. It incorporates PayPal. I used a custom database called authorize.net. It saved me a little bit more in fees, but it created a bigger headache. So I'm definitely going with Wufoo for next year, just a heads up. But yeah, so Google Docs is your best friend, guys. Definitely learn it. Take your time. I remember one guy taught me like 5 years ago, and then I stuck with it ever since. So we'll go back to the, let's see, untitled form here, which isn't saved. You want to rename it, obviously. CEO Never Sleeps. And then bam. So basically, all this stuff, when I start doing it, okay, so example, just to show you a quick tutorial, right here. So the very first question, untitled question. Let's go, name. Help text, that's what comes underneath. Full name or first name. Last initial, because some people don't want to put out their real information, because I do make these public, and I always hide the name column. So text right there, and it gives you options. You want a paragraph, multiple choice, stuff like that, and then required question. Obviously, you want this to be a required question, and that's it. Once you create all that, it's going to end up looking like, where the hell are you? It's going to be looking exactly like this with all the information you need. And generally, I link it to the main website, the stream, what channel it's going to be on, the Twitter accounts of whoever's running the event or streaming it. And then you want it to have links. I think it's really helpful to show people who's coming. It really gets people interested. I've also had people message me saying, like, that's really cool. I did not know there was other people in, for example, Sarasota. And they'll try to find that other person's name, and bam, you just created a small community for other people that didn't know other people existed. So if you have a tournament that builds up over time and people know about it, it's going to really build up. Let's see. I'm going to go to a question. Not Rock asks, I think... Let me see. How do you... I'm sorry. I can't even say your name, dude. Odorosurungus. 1. How do you feel about events charging upwards $40 just to play in tourneys, along with extra money for each event you play in? It really depends on the event. If it's like a small-time event, anything more than $10 I think is a ripoff. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, there's big prizes at stake. Like my smaller events, it's always just the pot payout. I don't really seek out sponsors because I'd rather just put on an event for everyone in attendance without having to worry about the bigger logistics. But for CEO, it's just a totally different beast. And it's crazy because I go from CEO and then I go back to these smaller events again, and it's totally different. But, it's still just as hard. Let me see. I'll get some more questions. You guys are asking some awesome questions. Thank you. But yeah, so I set that all up. Google Docs is your best friend. After that, this is where, for example, I'm going to start a new thing. I'm going to start for my new event. I'm announcing it right now. February 1st is going to be CEO Winterfest. It'll be the 5th year it's happening. Now, there's two ways to do it. My personal suggestion: you can either create an event as yourself with your personal name, like mine under Alex JeDaily, right? You can create it under your event page, or your, like my CEO Gaming has a like page. However, I don't like doing this because you can't invite an entire group. So what you can do is, I would go to home, for example. I have a CEO group that started before I did this page. Now I have I have over 303 members. Obviously, you're not going to start out like that. It's this built up over time. 4 or 5 years ago, this had 10 members for like a good 6 months. Now, what you can do is, I would suggest creating an event this way. So, for example, you just go to create event, CEO Winterfest 2014, details February 1st. This is going to be... Oh, my hotel's changing names, so the name's probably not going to show up yet. And... Oh, wait. Radisson Barcelona. Yeah, that's it. But it's going to change sooner or later. So when? It's going to be February 1st. You create the date. And this is just one of my one-day events. Add a time. I usually start that at 10 a.m. And I hope this is informative, guys. If this is helping anybody out, please give me some feedback. Now, privacy. I would do public to start off, but here's the cool trick. When you do it through this, you get to invite all members in your group. So automatically you're inviting everybody. If we go and do it the hard way, I'll show you. So I'm going to go to my CEO Gaming Inc. Because I used to do it through my personal and then click one by one to invite everybody. But if you have a group, not an actual Facebook fan page, but a group, that is your best way to invite people quickly. Now, for example, event here. I'm going to create an event here and see what happens. Add targeting. See, targeted to. You can actually choose who to do or send it to. But here, you don't see that option. Here, you see the option to invite all members. So my suggestion is to use your group to invite everybody. I didn't do it for CEO Never Sleeps, but moving forward, I'll start off with this. So when you create it, when you create the page, boom. Invited 50, but this is inviting the whole group automatically. So remember, create a event page from your actual group page, not your fan page, not your personal page, because right there I just invited 900 people without even touching it. You go to CEO Never Sleeps or example bar fights, I created through the CEO Gaming page, but nobody got invited except through word of mouth. So fortunately I'm lucky. See already, you can't see it right here. I'll switch over. But you can see right here, AJ is already going to CEO Winterfest. So that's how it works, man. That's viral marketing. So this is definitely what you need to do. It works. Like here's bar fights, 142. When you go to how many I had invited, it was 53. So it wasn't very many. But look at that. Already, 3 people are going. So that's viral marketing. That is why CEO is a success. Word of mouth and trust built up over time. Now I'll get to adding the event page and everything soon. But the data's set for that one. So basically that's the starter. I know that took nearly 20 minutes to do, but that's how I begin my process for creating an event. First step is the Google Doc is always the most important, because when you create the Google Doc, all this information, you can copy and paste it easily over to your SRK forum. The other forums, there's Tekken Zabatsu for Tekken still. And they're not as popular as they used to be because, again, everyone just goes on Facebook. Because, you're browsing on SRK. You don't know if a friend clicked yes to go to an event. But you're on Facebook, and boom, you hit this, and already all these people are going to your event. So, so there you go. I already have an event set for September. Core's Tekken Academy, yeah, all he has to do is create an event page from that, and boom. You're all set. So let's see what else. Let me go. I have some questions. Oh, anyway, so asking about the venue fees. It really depends on the venue. If there's not much production value or extra additives added in, I really don't see why people would charge so much, to be honest with you. If it's an established event, they have a right to, because it's going to be a quality event. But it's really tough, the situation. But if you go to an event and you feel it was your money's worth, you had a great time, that's what really matters. If you feel ripped off, just speak your piece. Let people know, your friends know how you felt, and let the organizers know. We really I take personally constructive criticism all the time. I want to know if I'm sucking or something. Yep. But yeah, in real life, people do go to the tournaments. Now, I had a question earlier. Let me pull this back up. Okay, so we already answered balancing games. Again, obviously the big three are always going to be Marvel, AE. Now, Cross Tekken's a tricky situation right now. Every time we host in Orlando, just the same top players enter. It's not bringing in new people. My goal, ultimately, with CO, is to create a gaming event just as big as EVO maybe one day, but I want to expand it because just based on Florida alone, it doesn't have any gaming cons at all. It's all anime cons, stuff like that. So I try to bring in as many outside people that wouldn't compete in a tournament but want to play other stuff. That's what made Bar Fights a success. It was an old school arcade and stuff, so that really worked out. Let's see. Go back to these other questions. When's Soul Calibur? I'm excited for HD 2, man, or 2 HD. I think it's going to be popular. Catch my breath while I look for some of these good questions. Yeah, I agree. Higher prices do scare off the new players. If they can see what the event's really about, for example, like I said, first couple events, you should never charge more than $10 if it's your first time. But as you grow over the years, like CO's grow and people have seen the quality of the event, they're willing to pay more. I mean, compared to most places, obviously, they're like, I'm not comparing it to PAX or something like that. You get your money's worth, but those events are like upwards of $100, $150. Up to like $40 is a great steal for an entire weekend where you're sheltered for a whole weekend. You're safe. You're playing games nonstop. You're staying busy. 30 to 40 is the average for a major, which I do agree with. So, but we give you discounts, guys. Always register early. So definitely helps out. But yeah, so Facebook and all that. Now Twitter, obviously, I built it up over time. You share your events over Twitter. And here's a couple secrets I have found paying attention. I think there are prime times where the most people are going to read your posts. If you ever notice when I post up CEO trailers, Monday nights I think are the best nights to post any kind of announcements. When you do it on like a Friday, nobody cares because once they're done work and they have a weekend off, if they don't work a weekend job, they're going to right away go partying and drinking and having fun and just not care about anything. But when they're back to work on Monday, they're like, life sucks. What's there to read about or, get my mind off of work? That's your prime time to start posting. So majority of my trailer post will be Monday evening or even Sunday night with so many great shows on TV, like Breaking Bad, for example, or Game of Thrones when it's on. You'll watch that. It's 10 o'clock, and you're just going to read Twitter, see what everybody's saying. That's when you start posting stuff. So Monday is a really great time to make all your announcements for anything you're doing in the future, stuff like that. So, yeah, let me see what other tips I get. Now, creating a website is very important if you want to host a major, for example. This is the CEO Gaming website. I usually have a sponsors area. I take it down until I start promoting for the following year. But it's very important that you make the things for, this is jumping into creating a major part. Make it very easily accessible for three things, in my opinion. Let people know when it is, the most important part, because they'll see the day and go, oh, okay, that's when it is. Plan it. Registration needs to be easy. Mine was, I made a huge mistake going with a different way than PayPal this year, and I had to actually do registrations over the phone. But having the hotel easily accessible and just the information they need. I mean, all you really need is the registration page, the hotel information, the game info here. I change this up every year. Prizes, the schedule obviously is very important, and try to stick to a schedule. Here's another pro tip. When I plan an event, like a one-day event, for example, I might get like 70 to 80 people tops for like Marvel or AE, but this is after time. But say, for example, you have 32 people. My rule of thumb, you need at least 2 setups for every 16 people that enter, or pre-register is usually a good indication. A lot of people wait to the last second if they can do it for free online and then show up and register, but at least 2 setups per 16 players, because with 2 setups in a 16-man tournament, it can be done in 2 hours. So if you have a whole day, then, if you have like 80 people, take that time, 4 times 20, you can split it up into 4 pools of 20. You can get that done in 4 hours with 8 setups. So definitely you want to do that. Okay, let me see. Here's a good question. Okay, is there a specific site or system? Again, I said this earlier. I used Authorize.net because it connected to my business bank account, so I could take credit cards through my phone. It's like PayPal and all that, but it took less in fees, but it was a big headache. It wasn't as organized. I used to use Eventbrite, but you have to be careful with Eventbrite. I'll tell you a little secret. Eventbrite, when I first used it for the first 2 years, amazing social marketing. But the problem back then was all the money that you took in, you would not get it until 5 days after your event was over. So I had a lump sum of all the registration fees, all the venue fees come to me 5 days after the event. So that was very hard because it's hard for me to have any money for staffing and pay stuff up front. I use the venue fees to cover a lot of the production value and stuff. So the more I had, so that's why I had to get rid of Eventbrite. Now I've been told that they actually pay now every 2 weeks, so that's good. Authorize.net literally goes. It goes right into your account the next day. So that's why I used it. It helped me tremendously with everything. But Eventbrite's really good. They just charge way too much. Learn Wufoo. It's really good. I know that's NCR uses, UFGT uses. You really got to do all that stuff. So, yeah. But like I said, my one-day events, I don't use online registration or prepaid. I trust people. They know what they're doing. You don't get, what, as shockingly, as trolling as this community is, when I have these registration forms, I'll get a funny name here and there, but I never get anybody spamming it. Don't get ideas. Spamming it or going nuts and screwing up the registration. It ends up, this thing works out perfectly for me. And like I said, it's a format that works for me. You need to do what you like. I'm definitely going to do a TO tutorial the way I would use it. But yeah, so back to the website, like having the schedule is important. Generally, you don't want to plan out a schedule right as you show the event or talk about the event. You have to wait it out. Honestly, you really don't know. Guys, here's why you need to pre-register. This is my explanation, and I know it goes the same for most organizers. It helps us decide how many people are probably going to show up, for example, but it really lets us know how many people are going to enter each game so we can make a schedule, so we can be prepared, so we can make sure we have all the equipment we need. Because if nobody signs up to the last week, we're going to be scrambling for equipment the last second. We're going to have to reach out to the community and stuff like that. Luckily, I've used Focus Fire for the last 2 years, and I've rented all their equipment and their staffing. They come with the guys setting everything up. So thanks to the community helping out with the event and more people coming, I can take care of others that'll run the event smoothly for me. But again, going back to the homepage, just very important. If you do ever build a website, you don't need one for your local events. Before the second CEO, I didn't use a website. It was all through SRK and Facebook groups. Yeah, that's my suggestion. Just make sure your website's easily accessible. There's so many great websites out there. Just do what you're comfortable with. Just do what's comfortable for everybody to read and just make it simple. Like, I already have next year's dates. Now, that puts me in a great position. The reason why I like to announce my dates early, I do my research. I make sure no other events are going on around the same time. Like, EVO has always been in July or even early August. So I'm not worried about them. But, I'll be honest, MLG had that date situation with a DreamHack next year. After they realized that it actually was a genuine mistake, they just skipped that detail. They had to change the date again. They actually hit me up and asked when CEO was, so they wouldn't do it that same June 27th, 29th. So now they're in between. So finally, I get an event on my own weekend. I'm excited, but the beauty of me announcing my dates so early is it gives people time to prepare. I've actually already had people booking the room. But the reason I can get away with it, I'm in charge of everything. It's a really good feeling to know that people trust my decisions, and I always go with the community feel. But when you can show people that you're confident about your event, that you know what you're doing, you know when you're putting it on, that you're ready to put it on, they'll just feel comfortable. They won't have to worry about anything. And people hit me up all the time. I always answer questions. So if you've noticed in the past, a lot of events, they didn't end up well because there was miscommunications, no communications, stuff like that. So so that's basically how I do the whole website. I have a blog for my older stuff, but I always also have a results page, which is really cool. I can look back, and as you see, I have literally almost every event I've ever had. So the very first CEO has the results. You can click results. And Flash Metroid won that, for example. And we had, a really good turnout. This was the 3-week prepared event. And look at that. If you look back, we had 1 HDR, MVC2, Tekken 6, and CVS2 arcade results. And then there was also Smash there. So that was just 5-6 games. Look, fast forward 4 years later and see how many freaking games we have now. It's freaking insane, So, yep. Okay, somebody's asking. All right, let me start from the top. You guys have some really good questions. So let me finish up with the suggestions I had. So I basically covered how to prepare. And if you can see, look at that. Already got 18 people going to CO Winterfest. I don't have a single detail. It's the name. It's really trusting in the name. So once you build an event, do a great job with the first one, it's just going to snowball from there, guys. Yeah, you getting married. God dang it, people. Anyways, so Facebook's very important. SRK, you don't miss anything. Also, local print. Believe it or not, I still actually go to GameStops, Play and Trades, local areas. Don't forget about believe it or not, there's still a community out there. They don't know about our events, and you need to reach out. So I think another reason I've been successful, I actually did radio ads last year for CEO on one of the biggest rock stations, and literally like 200 people heard the ad and came out. So because people still, believe it or not, guys, we're on the internet all day long, every day. There's people out there that don't know about these Facebook groups or know about Shuriken or event hubs. So you still gotta always be forthcoming and reach out to every possible means. So even posters at local gaming stores, colleges are great. So, promote. And, I was a computer engineering major in college. I didn't take marketing. I was a sales and advertising manager for my student newspaper. I fell into that job because of my older brother. So I naturally picked up on marketing and stuff and how to reach out. But I used to be shy when I was young. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I got bullied. I got beat up in school. And then I remember graduating college. I was a partying animal in college, and people knew me. But, the FGC really got me out there hosting events. But you can't be shy if you want to lead or organize an event. You got to have confidence that people know it's going to be a good time because you're going to take care of things if they go bad. So when you do all that, people are just going to trust in your name, and it's just going to build from there. So that pretty much covers everything I think I had to say. Trailers, I only do trailers for the main event, obviously. Trailers, they are a big thing. I really think the first CEO trailer we ever did put my event on the map. You can find under CEO 2011 trailer on YouTube. So that really helped get it out there when I announced the prize pots and stuff. But they're not as important as you think once your event's established. But for a local small-time event, before you start online, go to your gaming store, leave a flyer there, and tell people join this Facebook group or something like that, and they'll be interested. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the basics on how I start everything. Like I said, I'm still going to be working on this. It'll take me literally like I would say when I do plan these events, the social marketing part, I would spend about 4 hours to not the main CEO, but like these one day events. Spend about 4 hours going through all this, writing it all out, copy and pasting it to all the different websites, Dust Loop, stuff like that. So, yeah, somebody asked about the next event, I'm actually planning a all anime visual novel tournament in April. I'm still working out the date, seeing how the community feels about that. So I'm excited for that. But one event at a time. I waited till Bar Fights was done. Now I'm focusing on the CEO Never Sleeps in November, and then you let people know the dates just so they can plan. I've been doing this for so long. I like to space all my events out now to at least 2-3 months apart. As much as I would like to do a weekly, I have a day job. I don't have the time to do it. And there's a lot of other local events that help out. So, and it doesn't hurt, guys. If you're really interested in organizing and you are in a city with somebody else organizing an event, go help them out. Ask them, would you be interested in having a little help so I can learn? And that's how you build your base. Don't go in there, saying, give me all your players and stuff like that. But, reach out a little bit, see how you can help the other communities, and it should really go from there. So, yeah, I mean, so much I could talk about. Real quick, going over sponsors. People are asking me, how do I get sponsors? I will say the first 10 local events and the very first CEO, I did not have a single sponsor. It was not a concern of mine. My first and foremost concern was putting on a good event with whatever I could afford to do. You didn't have to go. You never overpromise. That's my number one rule. I'll never promise money I don't have. Another thing why a lot of organizers don't like to put up bonuses, we generally, the truth is, we get the majority of our, if there are profits or money, from the venue fees. We don't know how many people are going to show up. Like, I don't know until Saturday of CEO, the big one, if my event is a success or not, financially, not losing money. So if I won't know until that day because people wait until the last minute to register. And there's reasons for not registering on time. Obviously, it's because you not can't afford it, but you want to save your money, or you want to plan at the last second, or you're afraid something else will come up. So it's really tough. And I'm actually considering trying to do a refund system. If you register early, but you want a refund, give you a deadline, like maybe a month before the event, to get that refund. It's something I want to try. My goal always every year is to try something nobody else is trying out. And see how that works, because I have wiggle room to try new stuff. That's why I think CEO has been a success, because I just like to, do new things, try new things that other people might not be trying, and see what happens. Because it's a community scene, and we always have the feedback there for each other. But as for sponsors, like I said, if you ever want to approach a sponsor, you need to have something to show for what you're doing. You can't just go up to a big sponsor, for example, if Mark Man's still in here, like Mad Cats. Hi, Mad Cats, I'm doing a first-time event. Could you sponsor us? Obviously, they're going to go, what have you done before? It's a trust thing, so you need to build up your rapport from doing an event without focusing on the sponsors and the money, just focusing on making it fun for the people that are there. Because if you're making everybody smile and have a good time, they're going to come back regardless of who sponsors your event. And that's what it's all about, especially in our scene. I mean, you look at stuff like PAX and E3 and stuff. Obviously, they've been doing this for years. So it's they've been doing it for years. I'm sorry. And they don't get sponsors. They just get people to fill up their space. Obviously, we'll never get that big just as an FGC event. And Evo's been the closest to doing such a thing. Nearly 6,000-7,000 this year, if not more. So it takes up time. They've been in around 15 years. Flying around, all those guys have been around for over a decade. So a lot of stuff builds up, but first-time events, don't approach sponsors. Just do a good event if you can afford it. Other problems, obviously, is getting equipment to run an event. The first CO event I had, I only owned 2 TVs and 2 Xboxes. So it was tough, so I needed the community's help. And then I was lucky. I'm an exception to the rule. I kept winning a lot of vanilla Street Fighter 4 tournaments, and each tournament I won, I took that money and went out and bought an Evo monitor or an Xbox. And it built up over time. And then, unfortunately, 4 years later, I finally get the Microsoft sponsorship, and I could get help with Xboxes, but I had already spent so much money on my own to do all these events. As for, people have asked, should you enter your own tournament? Vi once told me Shang Tsung entered his own tournament. So it's fair game. Just don't obviously cheat brackets, rig brackets, collude, or anything like that. But that's a topic for another day. Okay, let me see. All right, so I think that about covers it, guys. If you think I've missed anything, let me know. I didn't want to go over more than about an hour or so. But I hope this has been informative so far. But I'm going to go through all your questions because you guys have some freaking incredible questions. So let's see if anybody asked anything. Let's see. Might not be on Twitter. And nope, nothing on Twitter. Thanks, guys. All right, but the chat, here we go. So we talked about how much should you charge for a first-time event. We're past that. Let's see. Doing great. Thank you. All right. So yeah, definitely keep your privacy public for inviting events. Don't do closed groups. Oh, by the way, there are 3 things when you start a group, okay? For Facebook groups, please remember this. If you have under 250 members, you can change the name, you can change the privacy, you can change a lot of things. If you pass 250 members, your group is done. You can never change anything about the group. So there's your warning. Now that I'm over 900, either throw it all away or start it over. I made it a closed group on accident. It works out because you can approve people. A lot of groups start to get spam now, but don't make it a secret group. Nobody's ever going to know about it. That's stupid. But remember, before you hit 250 members, you can do whatever you want to your group. You can change the name, all that. Now I'm stuck with, I want to change the name, but I can't. CEO Gaming and Events Fighting Game Community. That's just way too long. Yeah. All right, so let me go through the questions. Okay, trophies. That's a good question. I actually do get my trophies from Phil995. He's on Twitter. From Crown Trophy. A lot of Big E uses him. Final Round uses him. Great guy. He takes care of you. Be honest, he might get you at the last second and send your stuff, but if you tell him what you want, you let him know everything, you're going to get your stuff before the event, so don't stress it. He's a busy guy. So, let's see. Okay. Here's a good question. How do you go about with the internet for streaming at these kinds of events? Is that also a factor when wanting to make these kinds of events? Very good question. I always like to check a hardwired connection at every place I go. Fortunately, I've only ever had one issue where an internet was just horrible. That was at a smaller venue for actually Winterfest 2 years ago, and that place closed down a month later. But yes, a lot of hotels, the smaller hotels with the smaller ballrooms, they'll give you free internet with your venue. When you do something like Evo or CEO, I pay an arm and a leg for each internet connection to make sure it's a successful connection. I personally don't believe in 4G cards. A lot of events tend to use that. I don't like them just in terms of consistency, but I'm not a big fan of having 4 or 5 streams at an event, unless you can get away with it. I would love to have 4 or 5 streams. I just think that's so much content; it's really hard to keep up. And it's tough. My dilemma is I want to host as many games as possible, but I feel for first-time comers, and I could be wrong, people might disagree with me, for first-time comers that come out to an event, when they see 10 different tournaments going on, how do they choose what game interests them the most? It's really tough. Like if you have a few games, it'll be very easy. This guy asked me about CrossFit stuff. It's very easy when you have like 5-6 games for them to see each game and figure out what they enjoy the most. I mean, obviously, if there's a variety, they can figure out if they like any of the other games too. But personally, having a bunch of streams and all that, it can kind of take away from stuff. But if you have the manpower and the community support to do it, go for it. Just you're going to end up on 4G cards because not many hotels can handle more than like 2 serious connections. So always ask a hotel before you book there, how's your internet? Is it wired or is it only wireless? If it's only wireless, see if you can get a wire because most ballrooms are built with it. But internet's really important if you want to stream the event. For your first 10 of my events were never streamed. It wasn't until the first CO, and the very first CO only had 1,000 viewers. It was done by IPW Deuce, the one in the plane hangar. Only 1,000 viewers. So that just shows you where it started. And then obviously last year was the second largest stream in history behind Evo for fighting game community, which was it neared 40,000 viewers, which was just a huge. I loved it, man. I was so happy. So let's see. Okay, so trophies, yeah, I do get from there. Can I keep making Street Fighter 4 tournaments at bar fights so only 21 and up competitors can go? I'm going to try. I would love to find a venue. Also, yeah, some venues might be 18 and up or 21 and up. It depends on your community. If you have an older crowd, like we do for the most part in Florida, just go with your crowd, what makes everyone comfortable. Here's another rule of thumb I have that I personally do for planning these events. If you have like a small event, make sure there's at least 2 or 3 easily accessible restaurants or quick bite places to eat. Because if you have a hotel in the middle of nowhere, it's just miserable to try and get food, or it's too expensive, and it just makes people uncomfortable, stuff like that. So that's my rule of thumb. Fortunately, my next 2 venues have like 100 restaurants near them, so I'm a lucky SOB. Okay. How would one find regional tournaments? I've been looking for a while, but as someone said, SRK is kind of empty. You can try going to the regional groups and see what happens. You can hit me up on Twitter, show me your area, and I'll take the time tomorrow, or Wednesday. I'm busy at work tomorrow, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, the groups are out there. You just got to find it and do the research. All it takes is to find one person in a group, and then it snowballs from there. Let's see. Okay. Do you like the idea of featuring like 2 games for tournament and then having other setups for casuals? I want to bring in new people, but don't want to run the risk of losing my popular crowd by advertising other games. Truth be told, you will not lose that crowd. If they like your events and you host other games too, you never know. Those people that always come for those big games might also play those small games. Chris G, for example, Justin Wong, they play everything. So you never know. It doesn't hurt to add more games slowly. Don't go, balls to the wall first time and add a bunch of games. But you can keep the same games over and over and add one or two each month or each time you do the event. It's not going to scare your returning players. If there's space and it doesn't ruin if they have the same amount of space to play their same games every time and you use extra space to host other games, it should have no effect on your players. So that is nothing to worry about. Let's see. A better question, okay? For a 2-day regional, would you bother with online registration or take the venue fee and game fee at the door? For my 1-day event, anything other than the big June CEO, I do it all at the door. I have a great registration team now, Mike Schumann. He's my right-hand man. I taught him TO. He learned it. So, like I said, what I do is I go to this Google Doc, and I print out. You can print all this stuff. There's so many things. Plus, you can even go summary of responses. Let me see if this pops up for you. And right here, it'll tell you how many people are in each game. This is how amazing Google Docs is. So as you can see, right now, you can see how many people are entering each of these games. So that's a good way to, without having to count it out manually. And then you would enter the information, and that's what I do. So you can do it all at the door. As long as you have time, you really only, if you say you had like a 64-man tournament, for example, you only need about 20 minutes to, once you take all the registrations, to write out the brackets and stuff like that. Now, I do everything by hand. I'll use TO to create the bracket. If you follow it, just follow it naturally, you can write it out. And here's another pro tip. This is where I print my brackets from, playpool.com. Save this page, guys. What you can do is you can go to playpool.com, you can go to downloads, and boom, right here is all your charts. You can go to Kinko's or FedEx or whatever they're calling it now and print these out, and it tells you the sizes to print them. What I did was, for example, you can open this up right here. The lines are missing only when you do this, but when you save it and then load it up, what I did was I took out the playpool.com and I stretched out so it would fill out the paper more. Manually, which you can do. If anybody ever needs those files, let me know. I do have them saved somewhere, which basically gets rid of the Playpool and it's just the bracket, which is very helpful. But save playpool.com, really great website for printing out your brackets on the fly. You should always do it by paper, especially if you have multiple games, because if you're using the same computer register and using tablets, all that jazz, that does not work. Especially you lose a tablet or you run out of Wi-Fi, then you're out of luck. So, yeah, let's see what else. A better question. So yeah, if it's a small event, just do it at the door, because you're going to lose fees when you do these online registration pages. And for example, Eventbrite, for each $10 entry, I lost $1.54. So think about that. That adds up. So out of the venue fee in my own pocket, I had to fill out so nobody would get cheated player wise. So when you take it out the door, you don't have to worry about all that. So let's see. Okay, so the Kruger asks, there is a small scene in the area that I live in. There is one member of the scene in particular who is a huge hindrance to the growth of our community. He's got the inside track on the best venue and always runs shitty tournaments that no one wants to go to. It really segregates everyone. Nobody wants to tell him to just get out, and he doesn't listen to advice. How would you deal with problems like this when trying to build a scene? Oof, that's a tough one, my friend. That is a tough one. Let me think about that one long and hard. I don't know. What do you think, guys? Put some cocaine in like his TO bag and get him arrested? No, that's not a good idea. Let's see. It's really tough. I mean, when you have issues like that, you just need your community to man up and speak up and let the guy know that you should be running it this way, not this way. It's really hurting our community. Or do what I did when game happened. The guy tried to ruin our community. Didn't purposely do it, but it almost ruined our community. Just have somebody with confidence to just step in and go, all right, I'm going to do my own event and take it away from it. So if he always has the inside track on the best venue, get in that same venue. Remember, these venues need your business, your money. So if they have a partnership with one guy, they're not going to say no to somebody else to come in and not take over, but just do your own thing, to be honest with you. But if it's somebody that doesn't listen to advice, you gotta show how you feel with your wallet. If people are going to continue to show up, then it's on them for doing so. So it's really risky business. I would definitely be careful with that. But it's a good question, man. Really good question. Just hopefully naturally it goes. But if this is something carrying on over years and years, then you really have to have your community speak up and take care of it. Because if you feel it's hurting your scene, then that's going to be a problem. So Okay, let's see. Who cuts and edits my trailers? That would be Drop on Twitter. He's been doing it for the last couple years. So, yeah. Okay. Where do I obtain the trophies from? crowntrophy.com is really good. Okay. How much are Evo monitors now? I do use Evo monitors. A lot of organizers are thinking of switching to the BenQ monitors. Asus has never reached out to a single event. BenQ has been very interested in the fighting game scene, so that might be the next step. You might start seeing those. I'm already stuck with 20 Evo monitors, so I can't change it now. But I always went on Amazon, but they no longer make the Evo VH236H. You can get the VH238H, which is the LED. Runs exactly the same. It's just a little lighter. The speakers aren't as loud, and it's super bright compared to a regular LCD. But it still works just as fine. I've tried it. I've tested it. So just as long as your event is consistent and has all the same monitors, it's not going to be a problem with the players. So yeah. Let's see. Do you use a program? I use TO and then I write it out manually. Do I plan the stream schedule, or do you let the streamers for your events delegate that? That's a really good question. I'm a control freak. I talk, like for example, Hans and JT. I actually write the preliminary stream schedule. The beauty about being me, I actually like to be hands-on on everything because that's just how I am. I want everything to go right. I would write like an initial idea of how I want the stream to be and all that, and then I would open up to complete criticism of what they thought. So me and Hans would, we had like 2 conference calls and wrote the schedule out together. So you want to coordinate it with your streamers. I really think you should have a good idea of what your stream's going to end up looking like so you can help create the document and stuff like that. If you can have a streamer, for example, like Spooky, write out your whole schedule and post it up for you, that's amazing. I just like to be a little bit more in control and make sure everything's put together, And I generally decide games by the number of people that turn out. So the bigger it turn out, the later time it's going to be happening. Because sponsors haven't really come in yet and said, hey, put our game last, take this amount of money. That really hasn't happened too much. And the Capcom games always just end up last because those have the biggest turnouts. So let's see. Shout outs to, I won't say that. Okay. Yeah, a lot of 4G cards. Here's another thing, guys. If you have problems with the streams, come to the events. Hopefully. Anyways, so FedEx. Let's see. Yeah. Everyone said it. You guys need to come to a group consensus and talk to it. So, okay. Let's see, guys. I think that covers it, guys. Any last questions? You can post questions here. I'll give you. We'll do 5 more minutes, guys, of questions. But honestly, I hope this was helpful in some way. I pretty much shared exactly how I do it. So my next step will be finishing out the registration page, posting it, and having people sign up. Best advice: create a second email, not your personal email, like I do use ceogaming@gmail.com. Answer questions as quickly as possible if you get serious questions. If people ask you a question, you take advantage of that opportunity to show them that you're paying attention and you're interested in what they like. Let's see. When are you going to go take CEO on the road like the WWF? That's a good question. That's a very good question. I hope TFC does great success this weekend. When you have 4 big guys coming and going to a new location, it's still tough. You can never take things for granted and assume. And this is why I don't do it. Assume that because you have an event successful in one area that you can branch out and do it elsewhere. It's really tough. That's why I've been fortunate enough to get opportunities to host other events, but not actually run them, bring my equipment, because that would just be too much work, especially having a day job. But it's really tough when you do it in a new area. You shouldn't expect the first time to be a huge success, but if everyone has a great time the first time, then that opens up the doors. And like I said with CEO, the first couple years wasn't about getting sponsors right off the bat. It was showing that I could put on a good event and then approaching them from there. Okay, here we go. Hey Alex, I have a question. I find these good Asus and BenQ monitors, but most of them don't have speakers included, or they're really crappy for that matter. How do you make your sound system configuration for your tournaments? Evo's been fortunate enough to have all their headsets provided by Mad Cats. Hopefully more events can get that. We try to at least have the headsets at the main station. It's really tough. A lot of players have been used to no sound at tournaments for the most part, or the Evo monitors have a little bit of sound. What you can do, though, I believe you can just get a headphone splitter for like less than a couple bucks. Plug it into and you have to ask your players to bring their own headsets with just a 3.5 millimeter jack. Is just to get a little headset splitter and put it in the back of the TV and be set from there. So, what you call it? It's really tough. When you have a smaller event, the sound's not really big of an issue. But if you have people complaining about it, maybe provide a couple headsets, cheap headsets, and then do the headphone splitter, and it works out that way. But a lot of monitors are really tough, especially with no sound and stuff, because we can't use real TVs. We're using computer monitors, and those aren't known for speakers. But there's other ways too. You can get cheap. I mean, it's an investment and it's a lot of hassle to have to hold on to all these little speakers, but you can get USB-powered speakers if you want, or even battery-powered speakers and plug them into the back of the TV for stuff like that. Let's see. Okay, good question. What do you do about any unforeseen issues come tourney day? Like, what is the TO supposed to do if a verbal or physical altercation breaks out or something? Very good question. If it's a local event, hopefully nobody's a jackass. Obviously, if there's ever physical violence at CEO during my event, like in the event or in the hall, I would step up, or my buddies would help out and make sure that person is banned forever. Here's the problem, or here's the good thing about today's community: we're so open and public. Nobody wants to be embarrassed and known as a bully or somebody that's starting an issue, because it's going to be all over the internet, and that person's going to be too afraid. But mostly the community's been full of really great people that you really don't have to worry about that. But if something like that does happen, management obviously is responsible because it is their venue. Hopefully you'll be allowed to come back, but have management handle it, speak to that person, get him eject him from the venue, stuff like that. Other unforeseen circumstances could be power. Power is always an issue at some events, like the big hotel. You have to get what's called power drops, about $400 to add. It's like basically, just imagine a massive power strip, but it's generated. It's like its own little generator where you plug in everything. Those cost about like $400 a pop at a big hotel. So it's really expensive, but you can get away with local venues use as long as you don't have like 6 setups plugged into one outlet, you're fine. A lot of other unforeseen things that I've experienced. That's a good question. What have I experienced unforeseen? Power has gone out once at 2 of my events. People being late is an issue. When it's a local event, I try to be really lenient, or so many people know me, they'll tweet me or text me like, hey, we're on our way. As long as you're not holding up an entire tournament, you can pretty much throw people in if it's one of your like one-day events. Traffic's always an issue because so many people come from out of town to CEO events that I got to deal with that. So you're going to always have unforeseen circumstances, but if you're on top of everything and you're prepared, environment is key. Like I've always said, environment is key for collusion, stuff like that. As long as you're prepared, and people will respect your event, they'll see that you're good to go. Don't stress out. Your friends are there to help out. Alcohol, a lot of my venues have been alcohol friendly and stuff. If it's a big hotel, don't let alcohol in there, because one rule you need to know is hotels need to make money from their sales, food sales, alcohol sales, stuff like that. So if you're sneaking in alcohol to a ballroom, and some, God forbid, like not a fire marshal, but somebody big there, like a manager or somebody even higher than that hotel could lose their liquor license. And a liquor license, an example in Florida, is like $375,000. Don't do that. Don't screw it up for everyone else. Don't ruin the party. Everyone's just here to play games. First and foremost, run a good tournament. Focus on the tournament portion first. You focus on that, everything else will flow naturally. I think we covered it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let's see. Do I have anything else I can bring up? I think that's about it. You can always look over the hotels and stuff for nice, a good range for any event. A lot of hotels charge different rates depending on location. Anything between $70 to $90 is a really good price for a hotel a night, which means that it's going to be a respectable and good venue, stuff like that. So, what else? Any last questions, guys? I have 2 more minutes of questions, and then we are good for the night. And again, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. And if there are any real tutorials you'd like me to do, I wouldn't mind doing any at all. That's a good question. I'm sorry. Who made my website? I do all the Joomla stuff. I had Nathan from up north, and then I have Rick from Focus Fire. I have a lot of people do bits and pieces. Hosting wise, I just host on GoDaddy.com, and then I use GreenGeeks.com. My website, though, because of the traffic it gets for CEO, I actually pay $90 a month to host the website. It's not cheap, guys. No, I don't ban people with the OBS name in it. That was just a debate, and it worked. Can I sing a song? No, I can't. I've had practical lung cancer for the last month, so I can't do anything crazy. That was a good question. What are the basic rules every tournament should have, as in conduct? Respect your players, run everything on time, don't make them uncomfortable or agitated, have good air conditioning. That's usually helpful. A lot of even my venues, smaller ones, get so packed. It's crazy. Stuff like that. So, yeah, just make it a comfortable environment. Everything else will follow through. So, and always, first and foremost, whatever you promise financially for like prizes, make sure you pay them out, because if you mess up once, that your players are going to come after you, and it's going to be very tough to come back from that or rebuild from that. So as long as you're upfront with what you're giving out, when you're giving it out, if it's at the event or later, stuff like that, it'll help your event be an even bigger success when the whole community trusts you and what you're doing. So definitely always be first and foremost up front. Volunteers is another good thing. It's really tough. I like to take care of my volunteers. I actually do pay for lunches and dinners at CEO during the weekend now. It's gotten as big as it has, so I can afford that. Take care of them any way you can. A lot of people just know they're doing it because they're enjoying themselves. And, a lot of lately, guys will be bringing their girlfriends to the events, and the girls want to get involved. I had Christina jumped on board to run the brackets at bar fights. So a lot of people there, they have fun watching, but they like to be a part of something bigger. And they'll really reach out and help you. So just be respectful to people helping you out. You'll have people there to set up with you. When it's a team effort, community effort, it's really easy to do stuff like that. Let's see. Do you think it's possible to make a global tournament in a different country every year, expand EVO? It's a really tough situation. I don't think it's like a difference of egos or opinions or how to run events. It really is a financial situation. And unless you have one major group taking on the role of everything or getting some huge $1 million sponsor like Riot has with League of Legends, or League of Legends has with Riot, it's really impossible. And I wouldn't expand CEO to anything else. So Evo Japan, man, you never know. 2020, I've heard the Olympics are going back to Tokyo, or going to Tokyo in 2020. So 7 years from now, but we'll be there. Am I working on an air freshener sponsor? Yes, I have actually been. You get sample packs, really big sample packs of like Old Spice, stuff like that. All right, guys, before I keep going on forever, because I probably could, I'm going to end the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Next week, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'll figure something out. But honestly, if this was helpful to you, please tweet to me. Let me know. If you have any questions about organizing anytime, please hit me up. I do honestly get the repeat email of how do you start a local community. Just you got to build it slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. CO did not happen overnight. It took 10 plus events before the first one. So you got to build it up. Don't do this for the money. A lot of people approach me like, I want to do a huge event. It's my first one. What do I do? I'm like, back up. Don't do a huge event. Start off small. There really is. I couldn't quit my day job for this. I work 6 days a week to afford doing CEO as a hobby. It just, and it's been growing and working out, and now I have to take on more responsibility and be mature about it and grow it, because it's really great to see everybody come together. The best feeling about organizing an event like bar fights, for example, was the fact that everyone just had a great time. It was a great atmosphere with other games, stuff like that. So, just focus on that first and foremost, and everything else will be a bonus, and you'll really like it. So, yep, I actually do have a blog up. So, timeout. I do have a blog up. Let me see. Yeah, here's the bar fights video. I'm going to link you in that. You guys can watch it later. I do have a blog up, actually. You can go to my archive. Let me see. If I go to my CEO Gaming website, and I'll put this link in here, I actually have an archive where I used to do blogs, Ask JeDaily. I haven't brought it back in a while, but you can go to my blog, and here is I have a lot of information here. Rob asks about starting a local competitive community. I'm going to link this in the chat. Save it if you want to start a community. That's how pretty much everything I talked about here, that's what I did. So, yeah. All right, guys. I need to tune out. Let's see. So you should have a blog. Repeat stuff. Bring back Ask JeDaily. I will, man. I do get emails for long questions. Just most of them seem to be the same thing. How do I start it and stuff like that. Now, real quick, I didn't cover actually approaching sponsors. Your best bet to do it is try to reach out to somebody that's on the same level as you. Like, I know this sounds weird, but like a profiling type situation. If it's like a guy like Microsoft, talk to somebody that you know enjoys gaming. They'll be more inclined to be passionate about it. Reach out to your Microsoft local stores. They mine host events every single week. It's really special. So you can easily, people will host stuff at their Microsoft stores. They're really into gaming. Sony doesn't have a store like that, so you don't really get that with Sony or anything. Apple doesn't do that. So Microsoft stores are great. I loved them as a sponsor this year. They were really supportive, and just I had something to show for it. That's why it was a success and it worked out. Hopefully the next gen's not too confusing on what to get. But yeah, all right, guys, I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you so much.